So in this lesson, lesson 3.9, and it's kind of lesson 3.10 as well, we're going to look at translating from fractions to decimals to percents. And of course this year we've been doing a lot of work with fractions, and we just finished doing a lot of work with decimals, but now we're going to see how they relate to each other. So we need to know how to go back and forth between all of these types of representations of numbers. So go ahead and turn the page and take a look at the Do Now. This is a review of some of the decimal skills we've been working on. So go ahead and pause the video and work on these, please. Okay, go ahead and check out these answers and see how you did. Make sure the decimal points are in the right places. Check to see if you made any math errors. And again, this is just a little bit of review on the things that we've done so far. All right, now let's get into some different types of conversions that we're going to be working with in this lesson. So the first type of conversion we're going to do is from fractions to decimals. So I wanted to see if you first just happen to know some of the basic conversions for some common fractions. So for example, if you have the fraction 1/2, what is the decimal that goes with that? I'm going to do that one for you. That's 0.5 is the decimal version of 1/2. So take a second and see if you know what the decimal versions are of 2 and 3. And again, just pause the video for a second and write those down real quickly. All right, so those answers are is 0.25 and 3/4 is 0.75. Now you may or may not have known this, but let's see how we figure this out using the division that we did last week. So for example, 1/2 is the same as 1 divided by 2. So the 1 goes in the house and the 2 goes on the outside. So I know 2 doesn't go into 1, so I'm going to have to put a 0 there. We have a decimal, which I'm going to move up to here. Since 2 doesn't go into 1, I'm going to have to add a 0 and then see if I can fit 2 into 10. Of course I can, so 2 times 5 is 10, and I get my final 0. So you can see how the 2, how 1 divided by 2, again, how 1 divided by 2 gives you 0.5. All right, let's try 1/4, same thing. So 1/4 is the same as 1 divided by 4. And again, we're going to have to do the same thing. 4 doesn't go into 1, but I do have a decimal point that I'm going to add here. I'm going to add a 0, and I'm going to know that 4 times 2 is 8. 10 minus 8 is 2. 4 doesn't go into 2, so I'm going to have to add another 0. And 4 goes into 25 times. So there's my decimal answer for 1/4. And similarly, you can see the same thing when we do 3 divided by 4. 4 doesn't go into 3, so I add my decimal point, add a 0. 4 times 7 is 28. Subtract, I get 2. Gonna have to add another 0. 4 times 5 is 20, and then I get my 0. So that's why 3 divided by 4, or 3/4, is 0.75. All right, what I'd like to see you do is see if you can do the same thing with 1/8. So pause the video for a little bit, try this, and then come back and see how you did. check out the answer to this one. This one's a little bit longer, but 1/8 is equivalent to 0.125. All right, let's take a look at the next type of conversion. Now we are converting from percents to decimals, and this one is probably the easiest one. So we're going to do something similar to the decimal point slide again, and when you're converting from percent to decimal, you slide the decimal 2 places to the left. So here's 50%. To write it as a decimal, I'm going to slide it 2 places to the left. So 50% is the same as 0.50. And mathematically, it's the same as dividing your number by 100. So you could do it either way. If you divide 50 by 100, of course you get 1/2, which is 0.5. And that's really all there is to it. So converting percent to a decimal, slide 2 places to the left. So go ahead and pause the video for a second and do these problems real quickly, and then check back and see how you did. Okay, here are the answers. This one was pretty straightforward. This one's a little bit different because there's still a number to the left, but that's okay. And 3, 4, and 5 are a little bit tricky because when you move 2 places to the left, you kind of run out of numbers. But whenever you do that, you're going to fill that spot with a 0. So when I did 1, 2, I put the 0 in its place. Here the decimal point was all the way to the left. Again, when I do 1, 2, I have to add 2 zeros to fill in those spots. And similar process for number 5. All right, let's take a look at our next type of conversion. Now we're going to convert percents to fractions. So once again, I'm just wondering if you know the fractions that go with some common percents. So pause the video for just a minute or so and see if you can figure out or remember what the fractions are for these common percents. All right, so for 50%, that fraction is 1/2. For 25%, the fraction is 1/4. And for 75%, the fraction is 3/4. So you may or may not have known those, and that's fine. But the key idea here is that a percent is always out of 100. And that's how we're going to figure out how to convert from percent to fractions. So, for example, the way I do number 1, which is 50%, is I put it over 100, and then I reduce that. So, let's see, when I reduce, if they have common zeros, I can kind of knock those out, so I'm 5 over 10. Now I'm looking for a number that goes into the top and the bottom. Remember, we worked with this in the beginning of the year. And of course, 5 goes into both of these. So my reduced fraction is 1/2. All right, let's look at number 2 as well. Again, you put it over 100 and reduce. And let's see, I definitely know that 5 can go into both of these. So that's going to give me 5 over 20. And I know 5 can go into both of those again. And that's going to give me 1 over 4. All right, got the idea? So what I'd like you to do is convert 20% to a fraction. Go ahead and pause the video for a second, put this over 100 and reduce, and see what you come up with. All right, take a look at the answer. So I put the 20 over 100. I reduced by knocking off the common zeros. Then I knew that 2 went into both the numerator and the denominator, and I ended up with a fraction of 1/5. So 20% is the same as 1/5. Okay, that brings us to our final type of conversion, and we're looking at how to convert decimals to fractions. And the key to this is focusing on place value. So remember, the place value of decimals, when we have a 1 or a number in the third spot, that's the 1,000th position. In the second spot is the 100th position. In the first spot is the 10th. And we're going to use that information to convert a decimal to a fraction. So here's an example. I want to convert 0.12 to a fraction. So the first question I ask is, how many digits after the decimal? In this case, there's 2. And this determines the denominator that I'm going to use in order to create the fraction. So because there's 2 decimal places, I'm going to use the hundredths because we know there are 2 digits after the decimal for hundredths as well. So that means I can put 12, because that's 12 hundredths really, over 100, and then I can reduce. Let's see, I can definitely divide by 2. Let's see where that gets me. That's going to be 6 over 50. Oh, I can divide by 2 again. And that's going to be 3 over 25. And I think I'm done. There's no number that goes into both 3 and 25. So 0.12 is the same as 3 over 25. So the trick is determining what is going to be the denominator in order to convert. So, and the reduction is, sometimes more complicated, but that's maybe the hardest part of this. So what I'd like you to do is pause the video for a second and try these 2 conversions. 0.10, notice there are 2 digits here, and 0.375, notice there are 3 digits here, so think about what your denominator is going to be for those, and then work on reducing those down to its most simple form. All right, pause the video and give these a shot. All right, take a look at these answers. First, this one, even though there's 2 digits here, one's a 0, so I don't really need to count that, so I can just put the 1 over the 10. However, you could put 10 over 100, and it's going to reduce to 1/10, so you'd be fine either way. This one, however, I have 3 digits, so I have 3 digits I need to put over 1,000, so I put that over 1,000. Now this is a little bit tougher to reduce. I can definitely see that both numbers can be divided by 5. So I do that first. I get 75 over 200. I said they can be divided by 5 again. That gives me 15 over 40. And I can see that that can be divided by 5 again. And that's going to be 3 over 8. And then I am done. So 0.375 is equivalent to the fraction 3 over 8. All right, those are the 4 different types of conversions that I wanted to go over with you. So, if you are doing this video in class, you need to take the video assessment. So, I've given you the paper that you do these problems on. So, you need to pause the video. You need to write each of these questions onto the paper. And go ahead and do that assessment and then turn it in. And then after you're done, you can continue on with the practice problems in the packet. And you can come back to the video because I'll have some of the answers to those packets further along in the video. All right, so go ahead and pause and do the assessment. And when you're done with that, turn it in, and then go ahead and continue working on the practice problems. And there's also some challenge problems as well. Here are the answers to some of this page of problems. You have to turn your head sideways to read them. It's just the answers and not the work involved. You can use this middle box to do the work. But check those out and see how you did, and let me know if you're struggling to get the correct answers or if you can't figure out why your answer is wrong. Finally, I have a couple of practice problems, so go ahead and pause the video and try these. And when you finish these, if you get to them, it's no problem if you don't. But if you get to them, come back and check your answers and see how you did. And here are the answers to the challenge problems. So take a look at these. Let me know if you have any questions, and if you finished everything up, you can start the homework.